The world of Hollywood is no stranger to grief, sudden loss, and the complicated ways people try to hold onto the voices they loved. But when actress Rebecca Gayheart recently broke her silence following the death of actor Eric Dane, what she revealed stunned fans, sparked intense debate across the entertainment industry, and opened a deeply emotional conversation about the role of artificial intelligence in grief. In a heartfelt public statement and emotional interview that quickly spread across social media and entertainment news outlets, Gayheart spoke about loss, memory, and a groundbreaking and controversial project that aims to preserve a voice that meant everything to her. According to Gayheart, she has been working with developers on an experimental AI voice recreation project, one designed to replicate the tone, rhythm, and emotional presence of someone who is no longer here. For many fans, the idea sounded like something pulled straight out of science fiction. For others, it was a deeply human response to unimaginable grief. But as the story unfolded, it raised enormous questions. Can technology help people heal after loss, or does it blur the line between remembrance and something far more unsettling? Why did Rebecca Gayheart choose to speak publicly about this now? What exactly is this AI voice project? And how are fans, experts, and the entertainment industry reacting to the possibility of digitally preserving the voice of someone who has passed away? Tonight, we take a deeply personal look at the story behind Rebecca Gayheart's emotional revelation, the legacy of Eric Dane, the technology that's changing how we remember the people we love, and the debate now unfolding across Hollywood and beyond. Because this story is about more than celebrity headlines. It's about grief, memory, and the uncomfortable question of whether technology should ever try to recreate a human voice that the world has already lost. And for many watching this story unfold, the emotional weight of that question is impossible to ignore. To understand why Rebecca Gayheart's words resonated so strongly, it's important to step back and look at the people at the center of this story, their history, their careers, and the emotional connection fans have built with them over the years. Rebecca Gayheart has long been a recognizable figure in Hollywood. Rising to fame in the late 1990s and early 2000s, she became widely known for roles in films such as Urban Legend and Jawbreaker, along with television appearances that helped cement her place in pop culture. Her career combined the glamour of Hollywood with the complexities that often come with life in the public eye. But for many fans, Gayheart's story has always been defined not just by her professional life, but also by her personal resilience. Over the years, she has navigated personal challenges, family responsibilities, and the often unforgiving scrutiny that comes with celebrity status. Eric Dane, meanwhile, carved out a very different but equally recognizable path in Hollywood. Best known to millions of Americans for his role as Dr. Mark McSteamy Sloan on the long-running ABC medical drama Grey's Anatomy, Dane became one of television's most recognizable actors during the late 2000s. His charismatic presence, confident screen persona, and emotionally layered performances made him a fan favorite almost immediately after joining the show. For viewers, Mark Sloan wasn't just another TV doctor. He was complicated, flawed, charming, and ultimately deeply human, a character whose relationships and emotional growth became central to the show's storylines. Dane later expanded his career with major roles in projects like the TNT drama The Last Ship, further demonstrating his ability to move between action-driven storytelling and emotionally complex performances. For over 2 decades, Eric Dane remained a consistent presence in the entertainment industry, building a reputation as both a talented actor and a figure widely respected by colleagues. That's why the news surrounding his death sent shockwaves across Hollywood and the fan communities that had followed his work for years. While details surrounding the circumstances were handled with privacy and sensitivity, as is often the case when families and loved ones are grieving, the impact was immediate. Tributes poured in from fellow actors, directors, writers, and millions of viewers who had grown up watching his work. Social media feeds filled with clips of his most memorable performances. Entertainment networks aired retrospectives. Fans shared memories of the characters that meant the most to them. In Hollywood, the loss of a performer often sparks a moment of collective reflection. But what made this moment different was what came next. Because months after the initial wave of mourning, Rebecca Gayheart stepped forward with a revelation that shifted the conversation in an entirely new direction. Instead of simply remembering Eric Dane through past performances or archived interviews, she was exploring something far more radical. She was exploring whether technology could help bring his voice back. When Rebecca Gayheart first mentioned the project publicly, the response was immediate. According to statements she shared in interviews and on social media, the idea began as something deeply personal. Like many people coping with loss, Gayheart described the painful experience of realizing that certain things, a laugh, a voice, the small, everyday moments, can disappear faster than memories are ready to let them go. Friends close to the situation have suggested that Gayheart became interested in emerging AI voice modeling technology, a field that has advanced dramatically over the past few years. Artificial intelligence systems can now analyze hours of recorded speech and generate new audio that mimics the tone, cadence, and speech patterns of a specific person. These tools have already been used in a variety of industries. Some filmmakers have used AI voice recreation to restore damaged recordings from older movies. Video game developers have experimented with voice models to expand dialogue without requiring actors to record new lines. But the idea of using the technology to recreate the voice of someone who has died, particularly a well-known public figure, is far more controversial. According to Gayheart's comments, the project she is involved in is not intended to produce new performances or commercial content. Instead, she described it as an experimental memorial project designed to preserve Eric Dane's voice for private remembrance and storytelling. In interviews, Gayheart reportedly explained that the goal is to create an interactive audio archive, a digital system capable of recreating Dane's voice using recordings from past interviews, film performances, and public appearances. The idea, she said, is not to replace the person who has been lost. It's simply to preserve the sound of the voice that meant so much. Even so, the announcement quickly ignited debate across the entertainment industry. Legal experts immediately began discussing the complicated rights issues surrounding posthumous voice replication. Ethicists raised concerns about whether recreating someone's voice, even with good intentions, could blur the boundaries between memory and artificial reconstruction. And fans were left wondering where the line should be drawn. Because while technology may now have the power to simulate a voice, many people believe that a voice is more than just sound. It's identity. Its personality, its humanity. The moment Gayheart's project became public, legal and technology experts began weighing in. One of the biggest questions revolves around voice rights and digital likeness. In the United States, many states recognize what's known as the right of publicity, a legal concept that protects a person's identity, including their voice, from unauthorized commercial use. This is why companies typically need permission from actors before using their voices in advertisements or digital recreations. However, the situation becomes more complicated after death. In some states, publicity rights extend decades beyond a person's passing. In others, those protections are far more limited. That means projects involving AI voice replication can quickly become legal gray areas, particularly when they involve public figures whose voices are already widely available through film and television recordings. Technology experts also point out that AI voice generation has become incredibly sophisticated in recent years. Modern systems can recreate vocal tone, emotional inflection, and even subtle speech quirks with remarkable accuracy. But accuracy doesn't necessarily resolve the ethical debate. Some critics argue that recreating a voice risks creating the illusion that someone is still present when they are not. Others believe the technology could be a powerful tool for preserving history. Imagine being able to hear a realistic recreation of historical figures reading their own letters, or preserving the voices of cultural icons for future generations. The potential applications are enormous, but so are the questions. As soon as Gayheart's comments began circulating online, social media platforms lit up with reactions. Some fans expressed deep sympathy, seeing the project as a profoundly human attempt to cope with loss. Many wrote that hearing the voice of someone they loved again, even artificially, might bring comfort rather than discomfort. Others, however, felt uneasy, Some questioned whether recreating a voice could cross an ethical line. A number of commentators compared the concept to episodes of science fiction shows like Black Mirror, where technology that mimics human personalities often leads to unsettling consequences. The debate spread quickly across entertainment blogs, tech forums, and news networks. Within days, the story had become more than just a celebrity headline. It had become a cultural conversation about how technology is reshaping grief. Whether Gayheart's project ultimately moves forward publicly or remains private, it highlights a reality that experts say is becoming impossible to ignore. Artificial intelligence is changing how we interact with memory. In the past, remembering someone meant photographs, home videos, or recordings. Now it could mean interactive digital recreations. For Hollywood, this could have enormous implications. Studios have already experimented with digital recreations of actors for film projects. In recent years, technology has been used to recreate the likenesses of performers who passed away before production finished. But voice recreation adds an entirely new dimension. If AI can convincingly reproduce a voice, the entertainment industry may eventually face difficult questions about consent, compensation, and artistic authenticity. For Rebecca Gayheart, however, the story appears far less about technology and far more about memory. In her statements, she spoke openly about grief, about how the smallest things, like hearing a familiar voice, can suddenly become the most painful reminders of someone's absence. And in that sense, her project reflects a universal human experience. Every family that has lost someone understands the fear of forgetting the sound of their voice. That fear is deeply human. What makes this story different is that technology may now offer a way, however controversial, to preserve it. Stories like this remind us that technology is moving faster than society's ability to fully understand its consequences. What do you think? Should AI be used to recreate the voices of people who have passed away? Can technology help preserve memory, or does it risk crossing a line that should never be crossed? We want to hear your thoughts. Share your perspective in the comments below. Join the conversation, and if you value deep, thoughtful coverage of the stories shaping culture, technology, and entertainment, be sure to subscribe so you never miss the next investigation. Because sometimes the biggest questions facing our future begin with the most personal human experiences. In the days following Rebecca Gayheart's emotional revelation, the conversations surrounding grief, technology, and the preservation of a human voice continued to evolve. What initially began as a deeply personal statement soon transformed into a wider cultural moment, one that forced Hollywood, the tech industry, and everyday Americans to confront a question that until recently felt like pure science fiction. How far should technology go in recreating human presence after death? For Gayheart, the decision to speak publicly about the project did not come easily. People close to her say the idea had been developing quietly for months, perhaps even longer, before she chose to discuss it openly. Like many families coping with loss, she had spent time revisiting old recordings, watching past interviews, and listening to archived audio clips that captured Eric Dane's unmistakable voice. Anyone who followed Dane's career remembers that voice well. It carried a certain calm authority, the kind that made his portrayal of complicated characters feel authentic and grounded. Whether he was delivering sharp humor or navigating emotionally heavy scenes, his vocal presence played a major role in the connection audiences felt with his performances. That's why, according to people familiar with Gayheart's thinking, the idea of preserving that voice became more than just a technological experiment. It became a way of holding on to something deeply personal. In interviews, Gayheart suggested that the concept first came to her after seeing how rapidly artificial intelligence voice models had advanced in recent years. Tech demonstrations showing AI recreations of historical figures and voice assistants capable of mimicking specific speech patterns had been making headlines across the United States. For most people, these developments seemed fascinating but distant. For Gayheart, however, they sparked a much more emotional reaction. What if the voice she remembered so clearly didn't have to fade into silence? What if the recordings scattered across decades of film, television, and interviews could be transformed into something interactive, something capable of preserving the tone, rhythm, and emotional texture that made Eric Dane's voice instantly recognizable. Those questions, according to sources, were the starting point for what would eventually become the AI voice project she referenced publicly. But as the story continued to unfold, another layer of complexity began to emerge, one that extended far beyond a single individual's attempt to cope with loss. Because the moment the idea of recreating a voice with artificial intelligence becomes public, it touches on issues that stretch across law, ethics, culture, and technology. And suddenly, the personal becomes profoundly public. The technology behind AI voice recreation. To understand why Gayheart's project generated such strong reactions, it helps to look at how the technology itself actually works. Artificial intelligence voice recreation, sometimes called voice cloning or synthetic voice modeling, relies on advanced machine learning systems trained to analyze thousands of hours of recorded speech. These systems study everything from pronunciation patterns and vocal tone to emotional inflection and pacing. By identifying those patterns, the AI can generate entirely new speech that sounds remarkably similar to the original speaker. In the early days of this technology, voice models often sounded robotic or unnatural. But over the past decade, breakthroughs in neural networks and speech synthesis have dramatically improved realism. Today, some voice models are capable of producing audio so convincing that listeners struggle to distinguish it from real recordings. This rapid progress has opened the door to legitimate uses across several industries. For example, voice cloning has already been used to help people who have lost the ability to speak due to medical conditions. By training an AI system on recordings of a person's voice before illness, developers can create digital speech tools that allow patients to communicate using a voice that still sounds like their own. The technology has also been used in film restoration projects, where damaged or incomplete audio recordings can be reconstructed to preserve historical works. In video games, developers have experimented with AI voices to generate dynamic dialogue that adapts to player choices. But when it comes to recreating the voice of someone who has died, the ethical conversation changes dramatically. Because suddenly, the technology is not just about innovation. It's about memory. And memory, as many experts point out, is deeply personal. Rebecca Gayheart's project did not appear in a vacuum. In fact, Hollywood has already been grappling with similar questions for years. One of the earliest major debates about digital resurrection occurred when filmmakers used visual effects to recreate the likeness of actors who passed away before a film's production was complete. In some cases, studios worked with the actor's estate and family members to ensure the recreation was respectful and legally authorized. These digital recreations were typically limited to finishing scenes that had already been planned before the performer's death. But as visual effects technology improved, the concept expanded beyond simple completion of unfinished work. Studios began exploring whether digital versions of actors could appear in entirely new scenes or storylines. Each time it happened, the debate returned. Some audiences viewed the technology as a tribute, an opportunity to honor a beloved performer by keeping their work alive. Others worried it risked turning human performers into digital assets that could be used indefinitely. The introduction of AI voice technology adds another dimension to that debate. A digital likeness might resemble a person visually, but the voice carries something even more intimate. It's the sound of emotion, personality, and identity. And when that voice is recreated artificially, it raises questions about authenticity that even the most sophisticated technology may struggle to answer. In her public comments, Rebecca Gayheart emphasized that the AI voice project is not about replacing the past or creating the illusion that someone is still alive. Instead, she described it as a way of preserving something that grief often threatens to erase. Many psychologists who study bereavement say that one of the most difficult parts of